Okay, today I'm going to take you through how to hack the vulnerable machine, Mr. Robot. Uh, that we're going to look at creating a hypervisor on your local machine and then how to store or install a couple of VMs to your computer. So before we get started, just to understand some of the things we're going to need as tools, we're going to need VirtualBox, and this is going to be a hypervisor for today. And we're going to need Kali Linux and also the Mr. Robot VM. So we're going to need two VMs. One is going to be our hacking VM, and then the other is going to be our vulnerable machine that we're then going to attack. In using VirtualBox, we're going to install and create these virtual machines. And to do the Mr. Robot, you actually import a .ova file, and this then will have all the settings, everything created for that particular virtual machine. So we're first going to acquire the necessary files that we need. So I'll just come over and swap over to my computer. And you can see that I've got a couple of websites loaded up. The first one is VirtualBox, and I'm on the downloads page or downloads link, and I'm on a Windows machine, but it does support Mac OS as well as Linux distributions as well. So I'm going to download the Windows host, and I've created a folder to hold all of my download files. So I'm just going to save it there. That should only take a couple of seconds to come down. The next, we're going to need we're going to need Kali Linux. So I'll come to the Kali Linux website, and from here we'll go to downloads, and then I'm going to install a virtual machine, a pre-built machine. You can actually create or install Kali Linux to a virtual machine manually, but this is already set up, ready for us to go. So it's a little bit quicker. So you've got a number of hypervisors I could choose from, but I'm going to use VirtualBox, and it's a 64-bit. So I'm just going to download this file now. And again, it's going to save it to a pre-prepared folder. It takes a couple of minutes to save. It's a slightly bigger file. It's about 7 gig, 2.7 gig, sorry. While that's downloading, I'm also going to get a vulnerable machine, and that's from Volhub. I'm just going to type in here, Mr. Robot, and then search. That will bring us to this page, and then I can download this machine. And you can see that it's created by the author Leon Johnson. It's a .ova file, and I'm going to download it here. And again, into our pre-prepared folder. And it should take a couple of minutes for this to complete. Now, once these files are completed, we're going to actually set this up, and we're going to create effectively a network between the host machine and also these two virtual machines or virtual boxes that we've got here. A couple more seconds. And while the Kali Linux is just finishing off, I'm going to install the virtual box. So I'm just going to click on the icon here. And you have to be an administrator. And you just click next. Accept defaults, except that on my machine I tend to save files to the D drive as opposed to my smaller C drive. So I'm just going to do that now. Then I'm going to accept the defaults, and again, and just keep it's clicking next and then install, and then that should install VirtualBox to your computer. And this is our hypervisor, and effectively our hypervisor is a piece of software which will allow us to run virtual computers or virtual machines on our existing operating system without actually damaging it in any way. So that's finished. So I can start that up. Kali Linux is still a couple seconds from completion. We'll just wait for that to finish. And now that's finished, I'm just going to go into the folder, and it's a compressed file, so I'm going to extract it, and I'm going to extract it using WinRAR. I believe it's a .7z folder. Now that's completed, I'm going to go into our VirtualBox. And the first thing I'm going to do is, we've got a number of options, one of which is to import, the other is to create a new, and we can also add. If I just go into the folder that we got here, if I go down, you can see that with the Kali Linux, there are two files, and one is going to be the settings, whilst the other is the actual hard drive, or the virtual hard drive for the machine. So I'm actually going to add this to my VirtualBox. There we go. So I'll grab the settings first, and that will then pull in the actual hard drive as well, which is about 80 gig. And that is the Kali Linux machine installed. That's all it takes. So the next thing I'm going to do is import a machine. So if I again click the tools, and I'll click import, and then I'm going to open up a file, go back to the Linux download, and I can see the Mr. Robot OVA file, and click next, and again just confirm the settings here. We will change a couple of these settings later on, but for now just click finish, and there we go. It'll take a couple of seconds to import, and once that's completed, we can begin these VMs just after a couple of settings. So I'm just going to change a setting on this VM, couple of settings. One is I'm going to change the name to Mr. Robot, and the second is I'm going to go to the network and change that to NAT. Normally, you wouldn't have a vulnerable machine on a connection leading to the internet because it could be attacked. So it would be more advisable to have this on a private network, or at least a virtual private network, and I'll show that at another time. But from now, I'm just going to put it onto the NAT connection that we've got, and I'm just going to check that the Kali Linux box is also on that connection. If you did want to create a private network for this, then you can come up to the tools, create network, and we've got a couple of options here, one of which is the host only, and you could actually use any one of these to create a virtual switch. So if I wanted to, I could create a virtual switch here. It's given default name. And on here gives an IP address range. I could actually install a DHCP server, so a server that will actually hand out IP addresses to this network. And then I can click apply. And then effectively then I could set these VMs to use that connection, just like we did previously. Can go into the network and go host only, and select this second adapter here, and can go into Mr. Robot, and again into the network, change that to host only adapter, and again to that one, and then that's it. Those two machines now are just contained within the host on a private network. If I now run the Kali box and also start the Mr. Robot vulnerable machine, we can see after a couple of minutes that these two should hopefully be on exactly the same network. So just to go over what I've just done. First of all, we've downloaded the necessary files, so we're looking at the virtual box, and we've also downloaded two virtual machines, one be the Kali Linux and the other one be Mr. Robot. Once we've got the files downloaded, we've installed the virtual box and then imported Mr. Robot and the Kali Linux. Mr. Robot is actually in an OVA file, and the Kali Linux was OVF. With the OVF, the settings and the hard drive are separate. With the OVA, all the files are contained. And then we've created a virtual switch, and basically to create a private network between these two machines. So we went into the network editor, create a host only, enabled DHCP, and effectively then went to each VM and changed their settings so that they can actually access the newly created connection or virtual switch that we created. And then we can actually boot these machines up, and hopefully they should be on the same network. So we're just going to check that now.